to our virtual yoga class. You'll settle into your seated position to begin class. Settle here, sit bones on the floor. Those are the bones near your glutes. Activate your core. Soften shoulders and chin. And then inhale here and exhale. We're starting to shift our attention to our breath. Inhaling and exhaling. Your eyes can be closed or open. If your eyes are open, take your gaze to one point across the floor or room. That's going to help you with focus. You have the option of closing your eyes as well. Gather your breath. Notice the quality of your breath. Inhale and exhale. Throughout the class, we're continuously arriving back to the breath, allowing our breath to support us as we're working on our physical, mental, and emotional bodies. Working on our strength, our flexibility, and balance. We inhale and we exhale. Arriving to this moment, letting go of our to-do lists from yesterday and tomorrow. Letting go of tension from this morning, a week ago, 2 months ago, 10 years ago. We inhale and then we exhale. I recommend sighing out. By sighing out, we release that physical, mental, emotional tension. Inhale again and exhale, sigh out. Now I recommend that sighing out because it gives us a very visceral experience, a very immediate experience of releasing and letting go. So throughout the class, I'll cue to exhale. You have the option of sighing out, or you can just invite a long exhale. A few intentional breaths here as we remain grounded in our seat. Make any adjustments here to your posture to bring some more presence and awareness and integrity to the pose. Spine long, shoulders soft, chin neutral. Once again, eyes can be closed or open. If they're open, keep your gaze steady. As our gaze is steady, we invite a steady mind. Scan your body, perhaps noticing what areas you'd like to focus on today. Throughout the class, feel free to shift your attention continuously to one area. It could be your neck, shoulders, hips. It could be about strengthening. It could be about being more flexible. Notice that body part. Notice where your attention goes. And then after a breath or two, we'll start to drop our chin towards our chest, allowing our head to hang here. Let the natural pull here of your head open around the back of the neck, upper back. And then you'll start to shift your head from one shoulder to the next, either completing a half circle or a full circle. Lingering on one side, opening the throat, neck, sides of the neck, and then noticing that we're not just working on our neck here. You'll notice it's softening in the upper back and shoulders. Continue to bring your attention back to your breath. A few more rounds here. If you prefer to work on meditation, you can. You can bring your head back to a point of stillness, focusing on your breath, focusing on that point across the floor room. Otherwise, remain here. We tend to live in a very fast-paced culture, so we're acquainting ourselves with these slow movements, deepening, being, opening, no sense of hurry or rush. About 3 more breaths wherever you're at in meditation, or rolling your head back and forth, noticing areas that feel tension. As we move throughout our day, when we tend to be anxious or stressed or busy, we'll crunch around that neck, those neck and shoulders. As your head comes back to a point of stillness, rest your hands on your knees. We'll bring our shoulders up towards our ears and then draw them back. Again, to that point that we store that tension in our neck and our shoulders. So you can experiment here with lifting your shoulders up and back, also with shifting your shoulders up and forward. Elbows are close to your torso, hands soft on your knees. After 1 or 2 more rounds, we'll lift our hands right behind our head. Our elbows are bent, press our elbows towards the back of the room. And then twist towards the left and the right. So we're bringing that stretch and that opening throughout the upper back, mid back, and lower back. Shifting back and forth quickly or lingering on one side a little longer. And then after a round or 2, we'll go ahead and release your hands. This time, interlace your fingers behind you. Now, palms can touch or not. We're going to extend our arms, our elbows become long, our shoulders roll back. So the shoulder blades knit closer together. Chest is open, chin is neutral. Inhale, exhale, and now lift your gaze up towards the ceiling. Inhale, exhale. And release. Let's start to lengthen both legs out in front. We're going to focus a little bit more on our lower body. Opening gently here throughout the hamstrings and calves. We're going to take a moment to flex our feet, lengthen our spine. Notice a natural stretch here. Breathe into your hamstrings. Notice a little bend to your knee. And then the next breath, we'll start to intentionally fold over, leading through your chest. Shoulders remain relaxed. And hands can reach anywhere, thighs, shins, or toes. You're not doing yoga incorrectly by not being able to do a certain thing, like reaching your toes. You're here to increase your flexibility, to notice where you're at, and to breathe into that space. Use your breath to explore where your boundary is and see if you can push yourself a little further, not to a point that's uncomfortable or painful. From your hamstrings down to your calves. Feet are flexed. If you want to soften the stretch, you can relax your feet as well. Inhale. Exhale. Notice where that boundary is. Another breath here. And then release, slowly releasing. You're gonna bend that right knee. That right foot anchors onto the mat, onto the ground. You're gonna take your left arm forward. So as you're doing this, you're still lengthening your spine, relaxing the shoulders. You're gonna hook that elbow onto your knee, twist towards the right, flex your left foot, take your gaze over your right shoulder. Lengthen your spine. Find a comfortable breath. It's difficult to find that deep, long breath in the twist. And then release, opposite side. Press your left foot against, or your left foot onto the mat. Lengthen your right leg, flex your right foot. Take that right arm out, purposely lengthening the spine, opening the chest, relaxing the shoulder, hooking your elbow onto your knee. Twist towards the left. Chin towards your left shoulder, right foot flexed. You're opening the shoulder down the spine, the lower back, and then down the length of your leg to the flexed foot. One breath or two here. And then we'll release the pose and shift into our tabletop, making sure our hands are right beneath our shoulders and knees or hips with distance apart. Just a couple of rounds here, moving at your own pace into a cat and cow pose. Don't underestimate these poses. They're relatively simple poses, but they take care of your lower back, mid back, upper back. Notice where you might have some tension. You're also opening the shoulders and chest, back of the neck. Inhaling cow, exhaling cat. Now you can move in rhythm with your breath, inhaling and exhaling with each pose. You also have the choice to remain in one pose a little longer through an exhale and inhale. For example, in a cow pose, you can remain here for 2 cycles of breath if you're exploring something here. Same thing with your cat pose. One more round wherever you're at. And then we'll start to lift into our downward facing dog. You're in this upside down V. You're bringing your chest closer towards your thighs. Inhale, exhale, breathing into the backs of your legs. Soften neck and shoulders. Inhale. Exhale. And then shift into a plank pose. You have the option of keeping your legs long. You're lifting your core up towards the ceiling. You can also drop your knees onto the ground. Core is still activated here. Press through your palms. Keep your elbows close to your torso as you release down towards the floor. And be careful with your lower back as you lift into an upward facing dog. Engage your quads and glutes to support you as you're pressing your palms down onto the mat. Shoulders roll down. Curl your toes, downward facing dog. Take one breath, inhale, exhale. Plank pose, either legs extended or knees onto the mat. Activate your core, elbows close to your torso, and release. Engage your glutes, lift up, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. So we're gonna warm up the body here. Take a breath or two in that downward facing dog. We're gonna move through a couple of rounds of these, shift into your plank pose. Either expression of your plank pose, knees on the ground or legs extended. Release down towards the floor, and then inhale up, upward facing dog. Ideally, on an exhale, you're shifting up into a down dog. And then as we move through these poses, do your best to bring more integrity to the pose, meaning you're aware of moving through each pose comfortably, exploring that strength, flexibility, and balance. From plank pose, you release down towards the floor. You inhale up into your upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. You can either keep up a rhythm with your breath, or if you prefer to explore pose, you can remain in that plank pose, another cycle of breath or not. Same thing with your upward facing dog. You remain there as well. Try at least 3 rounds at your own rhythm. And then when you complete those 3 rounds, we'll shift down into a child's pose. Areas we always pay attention to, no matter what pose we're exploring, is any tension around neck and shoulders where we crunch up. We notice whether we're aware of our core supporting us in the poses. Notice your core. And then always protect your lower back. Always watch your legs so you don't lock your knees, but there's always a soft bend to your knees. These are points that can make your practice more comfortable. And after that 3rd round, you're dropping down into a child's pose, either no knees close together or knees towards the edges of your mat. Your arms are long. Inhale, exhale. Notice that heat generated in your body. Recall which areas in your body you're placing most of your attention to in this practice today. And then return to your breath. Inhale, exhale. Notice the quality of your exhale and inhale. If you ever have trouble concentrating, lengthen your inhale and exhale just a little longer than you're accustomed to. One or two more intentional breaths in your child's pose. And then release. We'll start to lift up into your downward facing dog. One breath, down dog. And then either walk or jump up to that forward fold, softening neck and head. We're going to sweep our arms up overhead, grounding through our heels, lengthening our spine. Noticing left palm touch your right palm touch your left palm. We're grounding in this moment, letting go of our to-do list from yesterday, to-do list of tomorrow. Noticing by inviting our breath, we're welcoming our experience, and by welcoming our experience, we're welcoming ourselves. It takes practice to linger here with our physical, mental, emotional bodies, inhaling and exhaling. Reacquainting ourselves with our full breath, our full selves. And then release your hands. We're going to shift into balance, lifting our arms up overhead, palms up towards the ceiling. We lift our heels halfway or all the way up. We keep our gaze steady. A steady gaze is a steady mind. We inhale and exhale. Core is active, glutes and quads as well. Neck and shoulders are soft. Noticing there's a lot of subtle movement when we practice balance in our stillness. Notice those subtle little shifts in the body. In any of these balance poses, always feel free to step in or out of the pose. Release your hands, release your heels. Now interlace your fingers behind you. Palms can touch or not. You're going to extend your elbows, arms are long, open your chest, take your gaze up towards the ceiling gently. And then keeping your elbows long, we're going to bend our knees, fold all the way down, our arms shoot out behind us. We soften our neck and our head. Shoulder blades stitch closer together. And then hands on our knees, inhale halfway up, breathing into the backs of your legs, exhale, release. Inhale halfway up, exhale, release. Third round, inhale halfway up, exhale, release. We're going to sweep our arms up overhead, grounding through our feet, our heels, arms extend. Hands in front of our heart center. We inhale here. Exhale. Release our hands. We're going to shift into a chair pose, bending our knees, shooting our arms out. We're sitting here, distributing weight under our heels. Chest is open, and then tip forward, forward fold. Inhale halfway up. Exhale, release. 2 more times, syncing with your breath. And then after that 3rd time, we're going to lift our arms up overhead. Once again, noticing left palm touch your right palm touch your left palm, arriving to this moment, welcoming our experience, welcoming ourselves. We inhale and exhale, grounding our feet onto the earth, onto the ground, onto the mat, toes and heels. Notice that line of energy from the base of your spine to the top of your head. Shoulders are soft. Release your hands. We're going to shift into a warrior 1, taking our left foot forward, stepping our right leg back. Left knee is bent. That right foot is in a diagonal. There's a natural opening to the hips. We're shifting our hips so that our hips are squared towards the front. If you have an opening, that's okay. You want to keep that left knee at a 90-degree angle. We're going to lift our arms up, lifting our gaze, lifting our chin. You're grounding through your feet. Core is active, glutes and quads as well. Keep your gaze steady and breathe from your heels to the tips of your fingertips. Inhale here, exhale. And then release your hands, cup either your forearms or elbows with your hands, gaze straight ahead. Do not lose that bend to your left knee. Start to lengthen your left leg, drop your chest so it's parallel to the floor. Shift your attention to that left hamstring, left hip. And then exhale, fully release your hands down towards the mat, soften your neck. Inhale, exhale. So now take your hands forward, hands right beneath your shoulders, standing split. Lift your right leg as high as you can. Drop your belly towards that thigh. And then right foot meets that left foot, one around. We're gonna inhale halfway up. And then exhale, release. You can sweep your arms up overhead. You can also roll up slowly. That's an option. Allowing your arms to dangle, head comes up last. As a reminder, we live in a very fast-paced culture. We want to practice slowing our bodies. Slowing down, we notice your heels. Mountain pose with either hands framing your hips or mountain pose with hands in front of your heart center. Welcoming our breath, welcoming our experience, and welcoming ourselves. Optional inhale here, exhale, side out. Releasing tension from earlier in the morning, from 5 years ago, 2 weeks ago. Inhale. Exhale. Sigh out. Release your hands. Now, warrior one, opposite side. We're going to take our right foot forward, a bend to that right knee. Left leg steps back, left foot in a diagonal, hips square towards the front. We're going to lift our arms, lift our gaze. Keep that bend to that knee. Glutes and quads are active. Breathe from your heels to your fingertips. A pose of strength and focus. And then drop your arms. Grab either your forearms or your elbows. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Start to lengthen that right knee. Drop your chest so it's parallel to the floor. Breathe into that right hip, right hamstring simultaneously, placing attention to your shoulders as well. And drop your hands onto the mat. Soften neck and head. Notice where your boundary is. Breathe into that boundary. And then start to take your hands forward, standing splits. Hands right beneath your shoulders. Lift your left leg as high as you can. A lot of flexibility here in your hips and hamstrings. Soften neck and head. Don't tense up here. And then watch your breath. Sometimes we tend to hold our breath when we're working in the balance pose. Deep belly breath. Remain here. And then release that foot, soften down into a forward fold. And then your choice, sweep your arms up overhead or roll up slowly. Hands either framing your hips, fingertips spread out, or hands in front of your heart center, eyes opened or closed. Notice what supports you right now. What adjustments can you make to bring more awareness, presence, and integrity to your body at this moment? Inhale. Exhale. Release your hands. Lift your arms up overhead. Palms up towards the ceiling. The balance that we did earlier in class, we lift your heels halfway or all the way up. Inhale here. And then exhale, release your hand, release your heels. We're gonna shift into our tree pose, one of our balance poses. You're gonna anchor that right foot onto the mat and then take a moment here. Left heel on your ankle or shin. Just taking a moment to explore balance here in very subtle ways. Even when our both feet are on the floor, you're still activating balance and core strength. And either remain here or take your foot a little higher towards your shin, or use your hands to support you and bringing that foot even higher towards your thigh. Feel free to step out of this pose and back into this pose. It's not about achieving perfection. You're just noticing where you're at today with this pose. It shifts and it fluctuates. Doing a tree pose in the morning or at night or in the afternoon can be different. The experience of it may be different. Depending on the thoughts that you're having that day will influence that tree pose, that balance. Different expressions here with your hands and arms. Just notice and find what works for you. Keep your gaze steady on one point. That helps with stability. And then inhale, exhale, you release your hands, release your feet, and then pedal your feet back and forth. Let's ground that energy with a chair pose, taking our arms out, lifting our toe bone, grounding our heels, activating our quads, hold. Huge contrast to that tree pose. Release down to that forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. And then your choice how you come up to standing. Make this your practice. You can roll up slowly or sweep your arms up overhead. Inhaling here, exhaling, sighing out. Meeting yourself right now, letting go of that to-do list from yesterday and tomorrow. We release our hands and shift into our balance opposite side, anchoring that left foot onto the ground. Rest that right heel on top of that ankle or shin. Activate your strength, that core strength here. And then your choice, you can explore that tree pose here. You can take your foot a little higher towards your shin or calf. You can use your hands to help you bring that foot up to your thigh. And once again, feel free to step in or out of the pose. You're here to explore. You're here to discover. Take your hands in front of your heart center. Different expressions here with your hands, your arms, cactus arms, prayer hands. Hands in front of your heart center. Do keep your gaze steady. Find that point. And then notice the quality of your breath. When we balance, we tend to shorten our breath, the deep belly breath as you balance. Inhale. Exhale, one more breath. And then release that tree pose, pedal your feet back and forth onto the floor. Let's ground that balance into a chair pose, pose of stability and strength. Contrast with that balance. Inhale, exhale, arms shoot out, palms face each other, shoulders are drawn down. And release down to that forward fold. Inhale, halfway up. And then your choice, either go straight to a downward facing dog or take your vinyasa plank pose and upward facing dog. We meet at our down dog. We lift our left leg, bend our knees, stack our hips, chest moves towards that right thigh. Then we drop our foot down towards the mat. And then opposite side, lift your right leg, bend your right knee, stack your hips. Release your foot back down towards the floor. Deep inhale here, exhale, side out. If you want to take one more vinyasa of the class, plank pose and upward facing dog, go ahead, go for it. Otherwise, we shift down into a child's pose, a pose of rest, of letting go and surrender. It's a pose of protection, of safety. If you have trouble concentrating on your breath, lengthen your inhale and exhale just a little longer than you're accustomed to. Three intentional breaths here in this child's pose. Noticing the heat you've created in your body. Notice how your breath can support you in integrating the physical, mental, emotional body. Just by being intentional. Notice you're cultivating a practice. Honoring your breath, experience, and yourself. Two more breaths in your child's pose. And then we'll start to release that child's pose, shifting into a tabletop, hands beneath your shoulders. Check your knees so that they're hips width distance apart. Press that right palm onto the mat and then lift your left arm up towards the ceiling. Hold. And taking your gaze up towards the ceiling as well. Inviting an opening in the shoulder, arm, and neck. A twist throughout the spine. An opening in the chest. And then release. Opposite side, take your gaze up towards the ceiling. Take your right arm up towards the ceiling. Lengthening your arm, pressing through that left palm. And then release. We're going to go ahead and shift. We're going to sit, lengthen our legs out in front. Make sure you have room behind you to lay down. A little core workout as you release down towards the floor. We're going to take our palms out, palms facing the ceiling. Start to tuck your chin towards your chest. Slowly start to roll and then find that point to hover, core active, glutes and quads, and hold. Any shaking is fine. And then drop your head back. Inhale here and then exhale, you can sigh out. Bend your right knee, grab that right knee with your hands, 3 rounds. Lift your forehead up towards your knee, drop your head back. Flex that left foot for some stability.
And then after those 3 rounds, opposite side, bend your left knee, grab that left knee with your hands, round your spine. And then after those 3 rounds, release. We're gonna bend both knees, rock to the left and to the right. You're grabbing your knees with your hands. You're massaging around your lower back, around your tailbone. And then for quite a few breaths, we're gonna transition into a twist. You're gonna drop your knees towards the right, so your knees are bent. Bring your arms out to a T, and then drop your head towards the left. It's essential that your head and your knees face opposite directions. That way you'll find that full benefit of that twist. Soften down the spine to your hips. Imagine your knees falling further towards the floor. Finding that comfortable breath. Scanning your body and seeing if you can soften just 10% further. Just a little bit more. It's surprising, but even though we lay down on the mat on the ground, our bodies will still mentally and physically hold on and create tension where you do not need to. So scan your body, take an opportunity now to purposely soften further towards the ground, softening into the earth. Feeling supported in this space. And then bring both knees back to center. We'll start to drop your knees towards the left, drop your head towards the right, scanning neck down the spine to your hips, imagining your knees soften further towards the floor, finding that comfortable breath. Scanning where perhaps you're mentally or physically holding on to some tension that you don't need to. Soften further down towards the ground, the earth, feeling supported. About 3 intentional breaths here in this twist. And then you'll start to bring your knees back to center. One more round, we bend our knees, feet float off the floor. Grab your knees with your hands, rock to the left, to the right. If you prefer to hug your knees, you can do that as well. And then start to grab your feet with your hands. You can extend both legs as much as you can. You can bend one knee more than the other. You can rock to the left or to the right. You want to get this final stretch here from toes and ankles down the calves, hamstrings, hips, lower back. Take an opportunity for that stretch. See what you need for further integration. And then you'll start to release here. And then we'll shift into our final resting pose of the class, our Shavasana. We're gonna lengthen our legs, palms face up towards the ceiling, framing our hips. Take a couple of full breaths. Remind yourself what that full breath is like when we're busy. When we move throughout the day, we tend to forget the fullness of our breath. And then after those full breaths, it's your choice. For the rest of your Shavasana, you can practice some deep intentional breaths, which is challenging in itself. Or you can allow your breath to go back to its regular rhythm. There's benefits to either choice. Our Shavasana is a pose to let go, to receive, and to integrate our practice. It's a space where you can slow down, where there's no expectation of you. There is nothing to achieve. Even if you have a busy mind, that's fine, that's all right. You're cultivating the skills of observing your body, of checking in, taking that moment of pause, of reflection, and observing. Soften around your forehead, jaw, and neck. From your shoulders down to your wrists and palms and fingertips. Notice our hands tend to hold on to so much. Notice how powerful that practice is when we let go, when we soften our palms, our pinky finger, forefinger, middle index and thumb. Soften the upper back, mid back, and lower back to the area around your tailbone. Soften your hips behind your knees,
down to your ankles, heels and toes, softening, observing with no judgment. And then we'll start to shift our attention back to our fingertips and toes, or breath. Inviting a generous and leisurely inhale and exhale. You can invite a full body stretch. You can turn your body to the left or right on the side. Once again, returning to a generous and leisurely breath. With this breath, there is no hurry. Invite a breath. And then you'll start to shift out of this pose slowly, finding that seat. Making those subtle adjustments to bring more integrity to the pose, lengthening the spine, softening the shoulders. Invite that generous and that leisurely breath. Notice that as we welcome our breath, we welcome our experience. And in honor of our breath, of ourselves, we'll take our hands in front of our heart center. Take an intentional breath, inhale here and exhale. And then in the tradition of yoga, the highest in me sees the highest in you. May we walk with each other in gratitude.